Yeah, man. Holla at your boy. Woo! We are back, Sandbox, and I know what haters is going to say, but look, next April, we are not looking for a quarterback, baby. We got one of them ones. What you think about that, Ma?
Bro.
Don't even say nothing to me, boy. You look like a motherfucking up. Let me tell you something, man. Let me tell you something. I got to pop mine this week. Because, look, we hopped on last week and told y'all that Drake needed to start. And yes, I know the Pats didn't win the game. And I know, unfortunately, y'all didn't win y'all bet. But we in the business of winning the war, baby. We trying to win the war. Let me tell you something about my quarterback. That boy Drake went out there and balled out. Everybody was texting me right after he threw his first pick and was like, man, that O-line is bad. Listen, let the kid get his feet up under him. Let him go out there and do what he do. And then watch what happens. I'm going to go ahead. I'm throwing this out there for y'all. Not only did the kid go out there and he deal, but man, it's been so long since I've seen that touchdown throw to Keyshawn Boutte. Y'all look it up. It's been so long since I've seen my quarterback step up in the pocket and deal one of DeMario Douglas. It's been so long. And man, I'm so hyped for what we got going forward. We're going to beat the Jags. Go ahead and lock that in. We don't even got to get to the betting part of this episode. But we're going to beat the Jags. Because look, not only does Drake have the arm, but he's an athlete. He's got the poise. And man, look, y'all told me all the time about offensive line. I want y'all to go ahead and look up the offensive line Drake was playing with in North Carolina. Drake is used to this. He's true to this. He's built for this. And we got a guy going forward. Do we need some more pieces? Yes. Are we going to Super Bowl this year? No. But ain't nobody looking for that. We looking to rebuild, and we got the cornerstone piece to do it. Ask CJ Stroud, man. Drake to the moon, baby. Go ahead, Mark. Tell me what you think.
I mean, did you drink some of this? Because you might have forgot. And I'm going to start off by saying I apologize because, by golly, why would I tell y'all to bet on the Patriots to cover? Because you lost. And I know you lost, and that's my fault. But shout out to Drake, man. He threw a couple dimes here and there. You know, does the future look bright for the Patriots? No. But, hey, I mean, you got a quarterback that looked better than Jacoby Brissett. How difficult was that? I don't know how difficult it was. But it seems like Foxborough is elated after losing by damn near 20. Although they saw Drake May throw a nice, pretty ball down the sideline. Cool. It looked nice. But Sandbox, I apologize. Chris, he had a long week. We all had long weeks. And Chris, he flew to Jersey and took some of this. So, you know, shout out to Chris. He spoke Drake May starting into existence. Since we've last seen you guys, I cried about firing that bald, scalped guy in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and the Jets fired that guy. So, hey, you know, what's going to happen this week? There's going to be a few trades, a few signings, somebody held out. Where's he going to be in the building? Who's to say? We don't know. But everything might have altered your fantasy football league or your betting odds since we've last spoken. So shout out to y'all, man. Welcome back to the Sandbox.
Yes, sir, man. And listen up. Just like always, we got to remind you, we are filming before the Jets and Bills game. So there's more to come for this week. However, I got to ask you, Maul. You saw Drake on Sunday, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's my question. Whose future looks brighter? The Pats or the Jets?
I mean, whose future looks better?
Whose future looks brighter?
The Jets. I mean, that's a given, bro. That's a given, bro.
That's what I'm
I mean, could we name any young guy on the Patriots team that they want to build around that is better than our top 5 young core of football players? We're talking about Sauce Gardner, Gonzo. Gonzo, yay! We're talking about Sauce Gardner. We're talking about a potentially top 10 receiver in the next 2 years in Garrett Wilson. We're talking about Breece Hall, who is arguably a top 3 running back in the league right now. We're talking about Jermaine Johnson, who's sitting out the remainder of the year due to an Achilles injury. We're talking about a young nucleus. We're talking about Olu Fashanu, who's probably the best offensive lineman that the Patriots would have had if he was on their team. We're talking about that. And you're gonna think that you're telling me that the Patriots has a brighter future? Maybe they have more to look forward to with Gerard at the helm because he's still there and we fired our guy, but we have a core group of players that 9 times out of 10 will probably resign, who is going to take us to the promised land. Hey, we might be waiting for the elite of the elite Mannings, in the next few years. Wishful thinking, we might be waiting for Arch, who knows? But we'll see where this takes us after we fired Robert Saleh. I know people are like, oh my gosh, what the hell is going on there in New York? What are they gonna do next? But listen, it's a slow game that we're playing, man. We're making the right decisions. Timing of those decisions, some may have questioned. But we're talking about the fact that we are making the right decision. So who has a better outlook on the future? Of course I'm going to go with my New York Jets, bro. What's wrong with you?
Well, look here, Sandbox fans. We appreciate y'all tuning in. And I got to go ahead and apologize, too. I wasn't under the impression that my co-host was going to drink actually before the app. But, so stuff happens. But y'all know, time sobers you up. So hopefully as this episode goes, you won't be drunk. Because I don't understand what he's talking about future when you got a 40-year-old quarterback and you don't even got a coach. But neither here nor there. Because it's Drake May week. And I got to ask you, Maul, we about to get into it, baby. We about to get into it. Because we want to figure out, based on what we've seen thus far, who are the lineup locks for your fantasy team? And this means set it and forget it. You don't got to worry about this guy. Set it and forget it, baby. Give me your first lineup lock, Maul. I'll go after it. Give me a lineup lock going forward in fantasy.
I love it. I actually like this. And you know why I like this is because all of these are the most unpredictable of guys. Guys that we might have questioned at the beginning of the season or during the draft. Guys that we might have looked at with age and thought that they were just an old bag of chips. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I'm going to start with the league's leading rusher. We thought he was old. We thought he couldn't do anything after leaving Tennessee. Mm-hmm. But Todd Monken and the Baltimore Ravens got this lock playing like arguably an MVP this year. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give a big shout out to Derrick Henry because there was a lot of people who questioned Derrick's productivity and who thought he would just be a dying breed of the beast of all beasts of running backs, So if you did pick up Derrick Henry, he is definitely a lock, man. He has been balling from week 1 till now. You shouldn't have ever subbed him out. On bye week, you better find somebody to replace him because the following week, you got to put him back in there. Shout out to Derrick Henry, man, and shout out to what he's been doing there in Baltimore. Lock him in, man, as a starter for the remaining portion of the year.
It's funny because I actually love that lock, mainly because just a few short episodes ago, we were wondering if you wanted to trade Derrick Henry while you still can. And man, what a couple weeks looks like, and what a couple weeks does to a player. Honestly, you redo the draft right now, I don't know how many heads are going to say they wouldn't take Derrick Henry number 1 overall. Shout out to Derrick Henry. He's been balling. But we back to New England, baby. You know how that thing go. Because your next lineup lock going forward is Mr. Pop, Demario Douglas. Demario Douglas, man. If you guys are as big of a Drake May fan as I am, You have to realize his number one receiver in college was Josh Downs, a small slot guy that cannot be covered in a phone booth. Gets open all the time. And he's got that guy in Pop, and the guy gets open every time. If you rewatch that game, Pop was routing guys up. He had up to 10 targets and caught 7 of them, 1 for a touchdown. If y'all could get a touchdown from Pop each week, even if I don't get a touchdown, the guy's going to be a PPR machine because he cannot be covered, and Drake finds him in the middle of the field. Drake loves throwing in the middle of the field. Y'all go ahead and get Pop if he's still available and lock him in for the rest of the year.
Guys, I'm sorry. I think I've never seen anybody as excited about a loss as I've seen my co-host this week. Because what the fuck? You know? Shout out to Pop, man. He had a really cool Twitter post where he told the coach, I'm going to break this dude down on a slant and I'm going to go. Shout out to Pop. But Chris.
He's a lock.
Chris been drinking on that dog. Hey, shout out to Pop though, right? Drake May and him, I guess they have a good rapport. They look good out there playing catch. So if you want him, go get him. But he's gonna run into some surefire defenses. I don't think he's played. I mean, Stingley's cool, but Stingley plays one side of the field, and he wasn't really in the slot guarding Pop. So who knows? I don't know. He hasn't played against any solid corners, or he hasn't shown me enough. I mean, 24-3, I think, was the last time we met Pop and them guys. But hey, needless to say, I'm going to go on to the next guy, right? My next guy is another running back, one who we didn't know what was going to happen once he left Philly. And there's a ton of mouths to feed over there in Chicago. Mm-hmm. But DeAndre Swift.
Man.
DeAndre Swift has come out of nowhere. He's a pass catcher. He's getting at least 17, 18 touches a week in the backfield. He's making people miss. He's averaging about 18 points a week. He's averaging over 70 rushing yards a game. Shout out to DeAndre Swift, man. And shout out to the guy who allowed for me to trade for DeAndre Swift in my league, because that man is a lock, man. Lock in DeAndre Swift. Sooner more than later, a lot like Derrick Henry, he's going to be floating around that top 5, top 10 running backs in fantasy this year. So if you don't got DeAndre Swift on your team, or if you thought it would have been conducive for you to move him early on, you're bugging, because he's a lock.
Yo, shout out to DeAndre Swift, because he's been bouncing around the league. And the guy is a baller. He's been a baller since Georgia. And frankly, I'm so glad he's starting to get his just due. And a lot of times he's putting up these numbers and he's not even getting in the end zone that much. Truthfully, this Bears offense is really starting to show out. Like, that boy Caleb is really starting to come into his own. And yes, they played some bad matchups, but man, they're capitalized off him. So shout out DeAndre Swift. Given that, I'm going to stay in the NFC North. Because I know a lot of you guys did your drafts and you took Mr. Jahmyr Gibbs in that first round. Unfortunately, you were fleeced, because that is not the RB1 in that team. That is not the RB1. Mr. David Montgomery has got to be a lock going forward in fantasy this year. He's scored in every game, and frankly, if you ever looked at a team and wanted to know who's the guy that embodies that coach the most, it's David Montgomery. I could see him biting off some kneecaps and, all type of stuff, bro. David Montgomery has been balling. He is a bull. He's unstoppable within 3 yards of the end zone. And frankly, he's got to be a lock for RB1 territory going forward.
Just got paid Friday night. David Montgomery definitely just got paid, man. And he should definitely be a lock in your league, because he is playing like an RB1 with no 2 in sight. Mm-hmm. I mean, I like how they're splitting him with Jahmyr Gibbs, but David Montgomery is clearly on a different track this year, and my boy got paid. So shout out to David Montgomery. But let's keep it in the NFC North, right? Because as you have mentioned, Caleb Williams is balling. Mm-hmm. It took him some time. We questioned Eberflus being the right guy for him, because Eberflus is a defensive guy. You know, a lot of us got fleeced early on with drafting the Mark Andrews, the Travis Kelce's, the T.J. Hawkinsons, who have been invisible to say the least. But Caleb has a really, really, really solid security blanket in Cole Kmet. And Cole Kmet is balling. He is playing like he is a top 5 tight end in the league as well. He is averaging about 5 to 6 receptions, but within that, he almost has a touchdown for every game thus far. So you know what? If you're looking for the average 10 points a game that you're getting from a tight end, no more, no less, sometimes even more. Obviously, that's beautiful. You should lock in with Cole Kmet. He's right now on about 60% of fantasy team rosters.
Crazy.
Which is crazy. And that probably means that a lot of you just don't trust in the Bears offense just yet. But that's the guy that you need to lock in, man, because he's going to be consistent. Caleb is going to get him the ball. A lot of mouths to feed, but I can't argue numbers, man, and this man is producing.
What's crazy is, this year, in fantasy especially, tight end has been unpredictable. We don't really know what we're getting from these guys. But what is starting to become more and more predictable is the Bears realize that Cole Kmet is Caleb's guy. They get him out in a lot of routes, and man, he's been a security blanket like no other, especially with Keenan Allen being banged up. He's starting to come back into his zone. He scored 2 touchdowns yesterday. But Cole Kmet has been producing. But it's Drake May week, baby, just like I said. And I'm not going back to New England, guys. Don't worry. There aren't that many locks on the Pats offense just after 1 week. Just pop. There aren't that many locks. But I got to go with one of his former receivers because just like Gibbs, you guys might have been fleeced in taking Michael Pittman. But the reality is, the lock in that wide receiver room, the wide receiver 1, is Mr. Josh Downs. Josh Downs cannot be covered in a phone booth. And he gets open all the time, and he's a chain mover. If you are in PPR leagues, just like most people, just like we are in, you got to go with Josh Downs because he's getting north of 10 targets each week. And that's not just targets to move those chains. He's getting targeted in the end zone, too. He scored yesterday. He's probably going to score more going forward. And I know that a lot of this is with Flacco, which is a little bit concerning because Anthony Richardson is coming back. But even before Flacco came in, Josh Downs was getting targeted. He started off hurt, so I'm sure he's not claimed in a ton of leagues. But if you don't already, you got to get Josh Downs and lock him into that flex position for the rest of the year.
I honestly like it. I like Josh Downs. I like the receiving core in Indy. You know, that leads us to question, more specifically a question for you, Chris, is it too early to start considering a QB move in Indy? Because, hey, they got the talent. They got Jonathan Taylor. They got Michael Pittman. They got Josh Downs. Alec Pierce has been showing up too. What are you going to do when you got somebody throwing 3 picks a game? You got to make a move.
This is my thing. You can't be too proud. And frankly, I'm so happy to see what's going on in Cleveland because they never should have moved on from Baker. It never made any sense to move on from Baker because Baker wasn't the problem. And you had Flacco in that building who took you to the playoffs last year. And you didn't offer him $1. You didn't even offer him $1. Flacco wanted to stay there. And look what he's doing in Indy. I'm not saying Flacco's going to be MVP. But damn, I'm sure he'd be better than Deshaun right now. And frankly, right now, if the Colts want to compete right now, Flacco's better than Anthony Richardson. And because of that, all the stock in his receivers go up, but especially on Downs.
100%.
Who's your lineup block going forward, man?
My lineup block? I think you got to really consider a few things when you're considering the lineup block. You know, I think right now it's just so iffy at the QB position. Like I like what Kirk Cousins was able to do that 1 week. He stunk it up, but I really like the Atlanta offense, and I think Kirk Cousins could be somebody in that lineup block, at least for me and my team. But when we're talking about QBs, Jordan Love, he got to be in there. You got to consider a few guys. You got Jordan Love, you got Caleb, who's doing pretty well. Brock Purdy. I don't know. It's a toss-up, man. I think right now, mid-season, we can go through position by position on who a lineup block is going to be, but it's tough to say.
Yeah, man. We got a lot of guys out there, but hopefully some of the guys that we mentioned are on y'all team. But look, I've been modest. I've been humble to start this season. Part of it is because my team itself, he made me nothing to be, boisterous about. But I've been humble about my team to start the season. And I'm not worried about no spreads. I'm not worried about no over-under. But I'm going to tell y'all how to win some money this week. Haven't looked at it just yet, but I get this feeling that because we're starting a rookie quarterback and the Jags been in London for a week and yada, 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 yada. Look, the Pats is going to beat the Jags this week. Don't worry about no points. Don't worry about over-under. Take that money line. Pats are going to beat the Jags this week. And with how horrible that Jags defense has been, Drake May is going to throw 2 touchdowns. 2. I'm not going to say 3, even though I think he's going for more. But lock in Drake May throwing 2 touchdowns and the Pats beating the Jags this week. The Jags are a dumpster fire. Honestly, they should just stay out in London and just, take over a team there or something like that. And, maybe play soccer. I don't know. You got to change it up. But for this week, lock in the Pats beating the Jags.
That's funny because there's so much going on in Jacksonville, man. Like, what are you doing with ETN? We gave a big shout out to Tank Bigsby last week, and he stunk this past week as well, out in London against Chicago. But I'm gonna go money line too, and I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. We playing against the Coattail Rider next week. Obviously, Chris said that we're recording before Monday Night Football when we play the Bills, but next week we're playing against the Coattail Rider. Sunday Night Football. Action. Lights, camera, action. Aaron Rodgers against Mr. Coattail himself, Mike Tomlin. And you know what? I got the Jets winning. Money line. But to add to that, I got Garrett Wilson getting over 60 yards receiving.
Goodness.
And I got Breece Hall scoring at least 1 touchdown.
At least
1 touchdown. Because we playing against the Coattail Rider, limousine driver, whatever you want to call himself out there in cold Pittsburgh. You ain't it, Mike. And you're going to see Aaron Rodgers on Sunday Night Football. And he's going to express to you how much you ain't it. I gave Aaron Rodgers a message just for you, Mike. You ain't it, bruh. And you going to see next week Sunday.
Listen, man. The people going to wonder what you got against Mike Tomlin at this point. But, hey, I believe the Jets is going to beat them because I don't really know what to make of that Steelers offense. But, man, this has been a fun ep. I finally could come on with some energy. Real quick, though, shout out that man, LEEFYLEEF. The track at the beginning of this episode is his. Y'all go peep my man's music. It's some heat and he's coming up. Shout out that man, LEEFYLEEF. But shout out to y'all for continuing to tap in, continuing to comment and show love to the pod each week.
Yeah, man. Big shout out to LEEFYLEEF. Big shout out to Jersey, man. One of the young New Jersey producers that's hitting the streets now. Shout out to you for the track. We appreciate you. And shout out to you guys again for tapping into another episode of Sandbox. We doing it different, man. We love you guys. We thank you guys for tapping in. And go Jets, baby. Bow.
Yes, sir. Go Pats, baby. Boom.